I never thought Christmas could feel so cold. Even the snow outside seemed to shiver under the weight of my heart. You see, my daughter, the one I raised with every ounce of love I had left, looked at me with those eyes, so full of fire and determination, and said words that pierced me deeper than any winter frost. Mom, your needs come last. My husband's family comes first. I froze, the sound of the Christmas bells from the street below suddenly drowned out by a roaring silence in my mind. Have you ever felt your own child turn against you in a single sentence? I hope not. But if you have, you'll know this feeling, the quiet, shaking terror of being suddenly irrelevant. That evening, the house was suffocating. The scent of pine and cinnamon mixed with the faint perfume my daughter always wore. Everything looked normal, the twinkling lights, the flickering candles, but shadows stretched in corners where they shouldn't have been. I felt them move. The floorboards creaked under my own steps, whispering secrets I didn't yet understand. And yet it wasn't just the house, it was the way she said it. The way her eyes refused to meet mine. Like she was protecting some hidden truth and I was too blind to see it. I remember standing in the kitchen, hands trembling over a chipped mug of cocoa, listening to the rain tap against the window. And then I noticed it. A folded piece of paper, almost invisible, tucked behind the cookie jar. I didn't put it there. My heart skipped. I reached for it, fingers brushing against something cold, almost metallic, a key. Why was there a key in the cookie jar? And to what? My chest tightened as I realized the house held secrets even I, the one who had lived here for decades, did not know. I followed the clues slowly, like a cat on a rainy night. Each step creaking, each shadow stretching, my heartbeat in sync with the distant storm. Upstairs, the corridor seemed endless, the wallpaper peeling like the layers of truth I had ignored for too long. The key fit perfectly into the small drawer of my old writing desk. Inside, I found an envelope with my name, written in a hand I thought I recognized but couldn't quite place. Opening it, the note whispered to me, "Not everything is as it seems. Trust only what you see, but beware of what is hidden in the rooms you thought you knew." I sat there on the floor, candlelight flickering against the walls, reading and rereading those words, my mind racing. What could it mean? Why now of all times? And who had left it for me? Questions spun around me like the snowstorm outside, and I felt a sudden urge to confront my daughter. But the truth? I couldn't. Not yet. Something darker than disappointment was creeping over me. The feeling that Christmas, this family, my own daughter, was about to reveal something I might never recover from. I think the worst part was the quiet, the way the house seemed to hold its breath. I heard whispers that weren't there, footsteps where no one walked, shadows that twisted just out of the corner of my eye. I shivered and pulled my shawl tighter, telling myself I was imagining it. But deep down, I knew it wasn't imagination. There was a history in this house, old grudges and forgotten promises, locked doors and diaries that no one dared open. And tonight it was calling me. And you, yes, you sitting there. Have you ever discovered something in your own home that made your stomach knot so tightly you couldn't breathe? If you have, comment below. I want to know because I need to know I'm not completely alone in this madness. And if you're just joining me and this story is gripping your heart already, do me a favor, like, share and subscribe so you can follow every twist and shadow I uncover. I promise you, you won't want to miss a single trembling secret. After that night I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every distant thump made me jump. I kept seeing her, my daughter, smiling politely, but her eyes were cold, distant, almost hiding something. And the key, that small, unassuming key, was now a constant weight in my pocket. I knew it would lead me somewhere I wasn't ready for. But curiosity, oh, it burned hotter than any fire I've ever known. By dawn I had made my decision. I would follow the clues. I would open the doors that had always stayed closed, read the diaries that had collected dust, listen to the whispers in the walls. Because if Christmas had taught me anything, it was that even the people we love can surprise us in ways that break our hearts, or save them. I took the key, tucked it safely in my pocket, and walked toward the door at the end of the hallway, the one I'd never opened even after 50 years. My hands shook, my breath came in short bursts, and the shadows seemed to twist toward me, like they knew what was coming. I hesitated, then turned the handle. The door opened to darkness, but not the kind of darkness you fear. This darkness smelled of old paper and secrets long buried. A diary lay on the floor, its pages cracked and yellowed. A candle burned low nearby as if someone or something had been waiting for me. And that's when I heard it. A soft whisper just beyond the threshold. "Mom, you should have known." I froze. And that's when I realized the Christmas I thought I understood, the family I thought I knew, was only the surface. Beneath it were shadows, whispers, and truths that could shatter everything I held dear. And tonight I'm going to tell you everything. Every hidden secret, every forbidden diary, every trembling confession. But remember, once you hear these truths, there's no turning back. Are you ready to step into the shadows with me? The candle flickered as I stepped further into the room, my breath shallow, the key still heavy in my pocket. Every step I took, the floor creaked beneath me, as if the house itself were protesting my intrusion. The diary lay open on the floor, as though it had been waiting for me for decades, its yellowed pages trembling like mine. I knelt, hesitating for a moment, then touched the first page. The handwriting was familiar yet alien, the loops and swirls of ink recalling someone I thought I knew, someone I had loved fiercely, and yet feared in equal measure. The first words made me gasp. She must never know the truth. Not yet. If she does, everything will crumble. My heart raced. Who had written this? My daughter? No, too careful, too measured. My husband? He had been gone for years. But the handwriting, it was mine. Or had been mine once, in letters I'd sent but never mailed. Secrets I'd hidden even from myself. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. This wasn't just a diary. It was a map, a warning, and a confession all rolled into one. I turned the pages slowly, each one revealing a piece of the puzzle I hadn't realized existed. Mentions of locked rooms, keys, whispers in the dead of night. Hints that my daughter's in-laws weren't as innocent as I'd believed. There were references to a past argument, a hidden promise, a debt owed, and a family secret that could destroy not only Christmas but everything I had worked so hard to protect. And then, just as I thought I was starting to understand, it stopped. A blank page stared back at me, and beneath it, in faint pencil, was a single sentence. "The one you trust most will betray you first." I stumbled backward, knocking the diary to the floor. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might escape my chest. Betrayal by her? By my own daughter? I gripped the key tighter, the metal cold and unyielding. Shadows flickered across the walls, dancing in rhythm with my fear. I could feel someone watching me. Or maybe it was just my own imagination, twisting the familiar shapes of the furniture into lurking figures. The storm outside had intensified. Rain hammered the windows and the wind howled through the cracks in the old walls. A sudden creak from the hallway made me freeze. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing across the polished wood. I knew I wasn't alone. I wanted to call out, to demand answers, but my voice caught in my throat. Instead, I listened, my trembling ears straining for any clue. And then I heard it. A whisper so soft I almost didn't believe it was real. "Mom." It was her voice. My daughter's. She was here. Watching. Waiting. I felt a wave of dread. Why was she here? Why hadn't she gone to the living room like the rest of the family? My mind raced through possibilities, each darker than the last. Was she aware I had found the diary? Had she planned this confrontation? Or was she stumbling blindly into the same chaos I had? My instinct screamed to hide, to flee, but curiosity, stubborn as ever, rooted me to the spot. I took a cautious step toward the hallway, the key clutched in one hand, my shawl wrapped tightly around my shoulders. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward me, the corners of the room twisting into faces I almost recognized. I could see the flicker of candlelight across the walls, revealing glimpses of a past I had tried to bury. Old photographs, family portraits, a cracked frame leaning against the wall, the eyes of my husband staring back at me with a warning I hadn't noticed before. And then I saw her. My daughter standing at the edge of the hallway, her expression unreadable, her lips pressed together as if holding back a confession that could shatter us all. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just watched, the storm outside reflecting in her eyes. I wanted to scream at her, to demand why she had said those cruel words the night before, why she seemed to prioritize her in-laws over me, over the family we had built together. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I whispered, my voice barely audible over the storm. "What are you hiding?" She blinked, and for a moment, the warmth I had known in her eyes flickered, replaced by something cold and unreadable. And then she smiled, not the gentle, familiar smile I remembered, but one that hinted at secrets, at knowledge she had carried silently, waiting for the right moment. She stepped back into the shadows just beyond reach and disappeared from view. My mind raced. What had I done to deserve this? Why had Christmas turned into a night of secrets, whispers, and shadows? And more importantly, what was she planning? My pulse raced as I returned to the diary, flipping through the pages again, searching for anything I might have missed. And that's when I noticed it. A small, almost invisible mark on the final page, a symbol I had seen before but never understood. It was etched faintly into the paper like a map pointing toward the attic. The attic. I hadn't gone there in years. The old ladder creaked under my weight, and the smell of dust and forgotten memories filled my nose. Each step up felt like stepping into another world, one where time had stopped and truths waited silently in the corners. And as I reached the top, I noticed a faint light flickering from under a small door I had always assumed led to storage. I hesitated, key in hand, trembling, my heart hammering in my chest. Was I ready to uncover what lay behind that door? Or would it destroy everything I believed about my family? The candlelight reflected off the metal lock, and I realized this key, the one I had found hidden behind the cookie jar, was meant for this very door. With a deep breath, I inserted the key, feeling the cold metal bite into my fingers. The lock clicked, echoing in the silence like a gunshot. I turned the handle slowly, heart in my throat, and pushed the door open. The room inside was small, almost claustrophobic, but it held a treasure trove of secrets. Old letters, photographs, and a chest locked with another key. This one even smaller, almost delicate. I knelt in the dust, my hands shaking as I lifted the chest. The lock gave way, and inside, I found something I never expected. A collection of letters, each one addressed to me, written by my daughter's in-laws. They spoke of promises broken, debts owed, and schemes that stretched back years. Plans that involved me, my daughter, and the very Christmas I had hoped would be peaceful. And in that moment I realized the truth. The Christmas I had feared was not just about hurt feelings or misplaced priorities. It was a battleground of secrets, betrayal, and long-hidden grudges. And I was right in the middle of it. I don't know how long I sat there, reading, trembling, listening to the storm outside and the distant footsteps in the hallway. But one thing was certain. My daughter's words the night before were just the beginning. The real story, the one that could shatter everything, was waiting for me in the shadows, ready to be revealed. And you, my dear listener, if you think your family has secrets, if you think Christmas is just lights and warmth, think again. Because sometimes the darkest shadows are hidden behind the people we love most. The attic smelled of dust, old wood, and secrets that had been waiting for decades. The letters in my hands trembled as I read them over and over, trying to piece together the puzzle. Each word hinted at betrayals I hadn't imagined, promises made in darkness, and a family loyalty that was anything but sacred. My daughter's in-laws weren't the harmless, polite people I thought. They were manipulators, weaving schemes I was only beginning to understand. And I had been blind, lulled into believing Christmas was just about warmth, gifts, and laughter. One letter made my fingers freeze. It was written by a woman I barely remembered meeting, the matriarch of my daughter's husband's family. Her handwriting was sharp, almost cruel, and the words stabbed at my heart. She will follow the trail, but she will not be ready for what she finds. Protect the truth. Let her walk into the darkness. Protect the truth? Darkness. My heart pounded. They had been planning this all along. All these years, all the polite smiles, all the dinners, a carefully constructed trap. I tried to breathe, but the air felt thick, heavy with the weight of revelations. A small photo slipped out of the chest and fluttered to the floor. I bent down to pick it up, hands shaking, and froze. It was a picture of my daughter as a child, standing in the very hallway I had walked earlier. But behind her, someone was hidden in the shadows, only partially visible. I couldn't make out the face, but I could feel the eyes staring at me even now. A shiver ran down my spine. Had I missed this photograph before? Or had someone placed it here recently? I heard the faintest creak behind me. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. My heart leapt. Not hers, someone else. I whipped around, but the attic was empty. Only the chest, letters, and a single candle flickering weakly in the corner. Shadows twisted on the walls, forming shapes that were almost familiar. I whispered, trembling, "Who's there?" No answer. Just the storm outside rattling the roof, rain hammering the windows. And then a whisper. Just a breath, soft, almost teasing. You shouldn't have opened this. My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. Or at least I thought I did. But how could it be here speaking to me after all these years? I had no choice but to keep going. Curiosity, stubborn as ever, pushed me forward. I began reading the letters one by one. Each one revealed another layer of betrayal. Hidden debts, manipulated wills, and family secrets I had never suspected. And then the last letter. It was different. Shorter. Direct. Chilling. She knows more than she should. If she discovers the final truth, Christmas will never be the same. Do not let her reach the locked room. The locked room. My mind raced. Locked room, locked room. There was only one in the house I had never dared enter. A small door at the end of the hall, tucked behind the living room, always painted shut. I had seen it 100 times, ignored it. But now, I realized it held the heart of everything. The final secret. I descended the attic steps slowly, every creak of the wood echoing like a warning. The storm outside had reached a crescendo. Lightning flashed, illuminating the hallway, shadows leaping against the walls. I could feel my pulse in my throat, my hands cold and clammy, the key burning in my pocket as if it knew the door it belonged to. I reached the hallway. The door stood there, silent, imposing. The lock, small and delicate, gleamed faintly in the flickering candlelight. I took a deep breath, inserted the key, and turned it. The lock clicked with a sound that echoed through the house, a sound heavy with the weight of decades of secrets. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the handle. Was I ready? Could I face whatever lay behind this door? The handle moved slowly under my fingers, and the door creaked open. Darkness greeted me, thick and almost tangible, swallowing the faint candlelight from the hallway. My eyes adjusted and I saw a room frozen in time. Dusty furniture, old photographs lining the walls, and in the center a large trunk. Its surface was cracked, scratched with age, but it radiated importance. I knew, without knowing how, that this was the core of the mystery. I approached, each step deliberate, every heartbeat loud in my ears. As I lifted the trunk's lid, I found a stack of journals, wrapped bundles of letters, and a small, intricately carved box. My hand shook as I opened the box. Inside, a single photograph. My daughter, smiling, holding a letter in her hands. But the letter wasn't addressed to her. It was addressed to me. The words, though faded, were clear. Mom, if you are reading this, it means I finally understood the truth. The family you trusted has hidden things, and now, it's your turn to choose. Trust your heart, or the darkness will consume you. My hands trembled. My heart pounded. My daughter, she had known. She had been playing a careful game of revelation and concealment, guiding me, testing me, warning me, and yet keeping her distance. A sudden noise made me spin around. Footsteps, quick, light, deliberate, coming from the hallway. I wasn't alone. Someone else had entered the house. Someone who knew I was uncovering these secrets. I clutched the photograph, the letters, the box, and backed into the corner. Shadows stretched across the walls, and the candle flickered wildly. My breath came in shallow bursts. Then a soft voice whispered from behind me, just inches away. You've seen too much, Mother. You should have stayed away. My stomach dropped. I knew that voice. The storm outside raged harder, rain hammering the roof, wind rattling the windows. I spun, and the figure stepped into the faint candlelight. It wasn't my daughter. It was her mother-in-law. The matriarch herself, eyes sharp, lips pressed into a thin line of steel. She had been watching, waiting, and now she was confronting me. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I stood trembling, voice barely a whisper. Why? Why are you doing this? She smiled, small, cruel, and perfectly composed. Because Christmas is never just about family, my dear. It's about control. And now you've crossed a line you can't return from. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the storm, the shadows, the letters, the photograph, all of it pressing down. My daughter's words from the night before echoed in my mind. Your needs come last. Perhaps she had been right, in a way I hadn't understood. Perhaps the only way to protect the family, and myself, was to uncover the truth, no matter how dangerous, no matter how dark. And at that moment I realized this was no longer just a Christmas story. This was survival. Secrets, betrayal, shadows, and whispers would guide me, but I had to act carefully. One wrong move, one misstep, and everything I loved could vanish. The matriarch's eyes glinted like ice as she stepped closer, the candlelight reflecting off her sharp features. My body trembled, the photograph still clutched to my chest, my hands shaking so violently I thought I might drop it. The letters, the journals, the box. All of it felt like a fragile thread holding together the truth I was just beginning to uncover. And she, my daughter's mother-in-law, was the storm I hadn't anticipated. "Why are you doing this to us?" I asked, voice quivering, barely audible over the thunder outside. "Why Christmas? Why my family?" She tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable, like she had been rehearsing this moment for years. "Because the truth doesn't care about timing, dear. And families, well, families often hide more than they reveal. Your daughter. She is only a part of it." Her words were like ice needles piercing my chest. Only a part of it? What did she mean? And why did it feel as though every shadow in the house were leaning in, waiting for me to make the next move? I took a trembling step back, but she mirrored me, closing the distance, the room shrinking with every heartbeat. My mind raced. There had to be a way out, a clue, something that could give me leverage. And then I remembered the photograph, the letter, and the journals. My daughter had left them as breadcrumbs. She was guiding me somehow, even as this woman threatened to crush everything I held dear. "Your daughter wants me to see this," I said, voice gaining strength despite the fear. "She wants me to know what's been hidden." The matriarch's lips curled into a thin smile. "Clever girl," she whispered. "But do you think that will save you?" She stepped aside, motioning to the chest I had uncovered. "Go ahead. Open it. But be warned. Not everything in there will bring comfort. Some truths are meant to hurt." My hand shook as I returned to the chest, feeling the weight of history pressing down. Each item I touched was a fragment of someone's life, a piece of the puzzle I had barely begun to understand. The letters revealed schemes, promises broken, alliances made in secret. And then I saw it. A small leather-bound diary, edges frayed, pages yellowed with age. It wasn't my handwriting, nor hers, nor my husband's, but it was familiar. I opened it carefully, the candlelight illuminating the first page. My breath caught. The diary chronicled years of manipulation, hidden dealings, and a family feud that spanned decades. Names I recognized, some long dead, some still lurking in the shadows. Each page revealed how my daughter's in-laws had systematically infiltrated, controlled, and dominated family ties. And beneath it all, a note written in a hand I couldn't immediately place. "She must choose wisely or everything will fall." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Everything would fall. I had no idea what that meant, or what I was expected to do. The storm outside raged harder, and the house seemed alive, walls creaking, shadows moving like they were breathing. I could almost hear whispers from the corners, echoes of the past, warnings, memories I hadn't dared remember. And then a noise behind me froze me. Footsteps, deliberate, soft but close. I spun around and my heart leapt into my throat. My daughter appeared at the threshold, her eyes wide but calm, her voice trembling slightly as she said, "Mom, I couldn't stop you from finding this, but you have to be careful. She'll stop at nothing." I exhaled a shaky breath, relief mingling with fear. "I don't understand," I said. "What is she planning?" "She's not planning," my daughter whispered, stepping closer. "She's controlling. She's been manipulating everyone, me, you, even my husband, in ways I only started seeing recently. That's why I said your needs come last. I was scared for you, and for myself. I didn't know if you'd survive if you uncovered the truth too soon." Her words cut through me. My daughter had been protecting me, even as I thought she was pushing me away. The realization made my heart ache and swell all at once. I reached for her hand, but she hesitated. "You have to promise me, you won't confront her alone," she said. "She's dangerous, and this isn't just about letters or diaries anymore. There's more things in this house, things you weren't supposed to see." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I promise," I whispered, though I didn't know how we would manage. The storm outside seemed to echo the tension inside. Shadows flickered in corners and I felt eyes, so many eyes, watching us from unseen corners. Something was waiting. Something we hadn't yet uncovered. Together we approached the small carved box. I opened it slowly, revealing a bundle of old keys and another photograph, this one older than the first, almost sepia-toned. I recognized the house in the background, our home decades ago, but the faces. Some I recognized, some I didn't. And tucked beneath the photo, a tiny key far smaller than the one I had already used. "What is this?" I asked, voice trembling. My daughter's eyes widened. "That key. It opens the final locked cabinet. The one no one has touched for years. Everything is in there. The proof, the secrets, the final piece of the puzzle. But it's dangerous. That cabinet was locked for a reason." I felt my stomach twist. Danger had never felt so real. The candlelight danced across the walls, illuminating shadows that seemed to reach for the key in my hand. I could almost hear whispers echoing from the past, warning me, "Do not open this. Do not uncover what has been hidden." But curiosity, stubborn and unrelenting, pushed me forward. I had come too far to turn back now. I could feel my daughter beside me, trembling but resolute. Together we walked down the hallway to the cabinet, footsteps echoing like a drumbeat in the storm. Every creak, every shadow heightened the suspense. The cabinet loomed before us, tall and imposing. Dust covered its surface, and faint scratches marked the years of secrecy. My hand shook as I inserted the tiny key, turning it slowly. The lock clicked, the sound deafening in the silence of the room. I hesitated, heart hammering, then pulled the door open. Inside, a collection of documents, photographs, and artifacts that span generations. My hands trembled as I reached in, pulling out a bundle wrapped in silk. The letters, the diaries, everything we had found before. It was just the surface. This bundle. This was the heart of the secrets, the family feud, the manipulations, the betrayals. And as I opened the first page, I realized, the story we had uncovered so far was only the beginning. The cabinet's contents spilled into my trembling hands like a flood of decades-old secrets, each document heavier than the last. Letters, contracts, photographs, and a few brittle envelopes marked in handwriting I barely recognized. I could feel my pulse hammering as I sifted through the layers of hidden truths. My daughter stood beside me, her hand brushing against mine occasionally, as if silently sharing my fear. The storm outside battered the windows, thunder echoing like a warning that the house itself understood the danger we had just invited into our lives. One photograph made my breath catch. It showed my husband smiling warmly, yet in the background, barely noticeable, were figures I had never seen. My daughter's in-laws, young, scheming, their eyes cold and calculating. I flipped it over, and there, written faintly in pencil, were the words, "We will own what is ours, even if it takes generations." A chill ran down my spine. Generations. Their plan wasn't just for now, it spanned decades. And suddenly, the small fights, the silent tensions, the manipulations I had dismissed as ordinary family dynamics made sense. I felt a tug at my sleeve. My daughter's trembling voice whispered, "Mom, look at this." She pointed to a letter, folded with precision, edges worn, hidden beneath a stack of older documents. I opened it carefully. The first lines were polite, cordial even, but as I read on, my chest tightened. The letter detailed a financial scheme, a subtle manipulation of inheritances and trust funds, all designed to place my daughter's in-laws in control of our family's assets. The words practically dripped with deceit, but more than that, they revealed a level of cruelty I had never imagined. I looked at my daughter, eyes wide. "They planned this, all of this?" I whispered. She nodded slowly, her hand gripping mine tighter. "Mom." I only realized how deep it went when I found the first letter hidden in my room months ago. "I didn't want to tell you. I thought, maybe you'd be safe if I handled it quietly. But now it's out in the open." Every shadow in the room seemed to pulse with life, and I could hear faint whispers again, as though the house itself were recounting decades of betrayal. Footsteps in the hallway outside made me start, heart hammering. But this time we didn't freeze. My daughter and I exchanged a glance, a silent agreement, and moved closer to the documents, desperate to understand the full extent of the web surrounding us. Another letter caught my eye. It was shorter, addressed to someone simply as, "The Keeper of Secrets." The handwriting was jagged, almost frantic. It spoke of threats, blackmail, and a promise to keep certain family truths hidden at all costs. And then one line made my stomach drop. "She is closer than we think. If she opens the cabinet, everything will be revealed." And there will be consequences. Consequences. My hands shook, gripping the edges of the paper as if it could somehow shield me from what was coming. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and the candlelight flickered wildly. I glanced at my daughter. Her eyes mirrored my fear, yet there was determination there too, a resolve that I had never seen in her before. Mom, whatever is in this house, it isn't just about money or control. It's about legacy, about power, about something they've been hiding from me my entire life. And now you're a part of it. I swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Before she could answer, a soft, deliberate knock echoed from the hallway. My daughter froze. So did I. It was slow, calculated, almost as if whoever was outside wanted us to know they were there watching. We exchanged a look, one of sheer understanding. We weren't alone. Someone had been following us, waiting for the moment we uncovered the cabinet. Mom, hide the letters. Hide everything, she whispered. We stacked the documents carefully, tucking them back into the cabinet, but I couldn't stop shaking. The knock came again, louder this time, more insistent. My daughter's mother-in-law appeared at the doorway, her silhouette framed by the storm's flashes of lightning. She didn't speak. She only watched, and in her eyes, a satisfaction that chilled me to the bone. You've gone too far, she said finally, voice low, deadly calm. The truth, you don't understand what it means. And now it's too late to turn back. My daughter stepped in front of me, instinctively protective, but the matriarch only smiled, stepping aside slightly, revealing something I hadn't noticed before. A small locked chest on the floor, different from the cabinet. Dust covered it, but the lock gleamed faintly in the flickering candlelight. It was clearly meant to be found, meant to test us. Mom, my daughter whispered. That chest, that's the final piece. But it's dangerous. You need to decide, open it or leave it. Once you do, there's no going back. My hands trembled as I knelt before it. The lock was delicate but intricate, a puzzle in its own right. I took the small key from the carved box and inserted it. It turned with a faint click, echoing through the tense silence. I hesitated for a fraction of a second. Every instinct screamed to stop, to leave it be, but my curiosity, my need for truth, pushed me forward. I lifted the lid. Inside, a collection of old photographs, letters, and a small sealed envelope. The photographs were of people I didn't recognize, ancestors perhaps, or family friends long forgotten, but their expressions were serious, somber, almost fearful. The envelope was heavier than I expected. I held it in my hands, feeling the weight of decades pressing down on me. My daughter's mother-in-law spoke then, her voice almost a whisper. Once you open that envelope, you'll understand everything. The debts, the secrets, the betrayals, the reason your daughter's needs seem secondary. All of it will make sense. I took a deep breath and opened it. The paper inside, it wasn't a letter. It was a map. Not a map of land, but a map of hidden truths, locations in the house, secret compartments, old hiding places, and instructions to uncover the darkest secret the family had kept for generations. And at the very bottom, a note in handwriting I recognized instantly. Mom, I trusted you to find this. You must follow the path, or the family loses everything. I looked at my daughter. Her eyes were wide, filled with trust, fear, and hope. And I realized everything was on the line. Christmas wasn't just a day anymore. It was a test, a challenge. And the darkness lurking in our home was waiting for us to take the next step. The envelope in my hands felt impossibly heavy, as though it carried the weight of generations. I unfolded the paper slowly, revealing a map, faint lines and symbols inked decades ago, pointing to hidden compartments and secret rooms within the house. My daughter leaned over my shoulder, her eyes wide, whispering, Mom, that's it. That's how they've hidden everything. The real truth. The part they never wanted anyone to find. I traced the lines with trembling fingers, each one leading deeper into shadows I had walked past for years without suspicion. There was the old wardrobe in the hallway, the false wall in the study, the locked drawer in the kitchen, and finally the basement. My stomach tightened. The basement had always frightened me. Cold, dark, and silent, it held memories I had buried, like old regrets trapped under years of dust. But now the map suggested that the ultimate secret, the one that could explain everything, was hidden there. The storm outside raged harder, rain hammering the windows, wind rattling the eaves. Each flash of lightning cast fleeting shadows across the hallway, making familiar objects look sinister. I felt as though the house itself were alive, watching, waiting to see if I would follow the map's instructions. My daughter squeezed my hand, grounding me, giving me courage I didn't know I had left. "We have to do this together," she said. "No matter what." We started with the wardrobe just as the map indicated. I knelt, moving aside old coats and scarves, my hands brushing against the cold wood. Behind it, almost invisible, was a small panel perfectly camouflaged. I pressed it gently, and it swung open with a soft creak, revealing a tiny compartment. Inside, a bundle of letters, brittle and yellowed. I pulled them out, heart racing, and began to read. They were confessions, written by ancestors I had never known, detailing disputes over property, promises of silence, and alliances forged in secrecy. But one letter made me gasp. It spoke directly of my daughter's in-laws, written decades before she was born. "They will stop at nothing to gain control. Guard your daughters, protect your family, or all is lost." I looked at my daughter, her face pale. "Mom, this explains everything. All the pressure, all the manipulation. It's been planned for generations." We moved on to the false wall in the study. It took all my strength to push against it, the years of paint and dust resisting. When it finally gave way, we found a hidden shelf, filled with photographs, diaries, and old artifacts. One diary stood out, bound in cracked leather, its pages filled with the same cryptic handwriting I had seen in the attic. I opened it carefully. Inside were records of meetings, promises, and threats, all aimed at controlling our family and ultimately my daughter. The letters and diaries began to paint a chilling picture. My daughter's in-laws had been manipulating the family for decades, using fear, influence, and secrets to bend everyone to their will. Every polite smile, every holiday gathering, every kind word. It had been a facade, a carefully constructed stage for their ambitions. And the map, it wasn't just guiding me through the house. It was guiding me through the history of betrayal itself. Finally, we reached the basement. The door was old, warped with age, and the keyhole glinted in the flickering candlelight. My hand shook as I inserted the small key from the carved box. The lock clicked, echoing through the house like a gunshot. I hesitated, heart hammering. This was the moment of truth. The final secret, the revelation that could shatter everything, or save us. We descended into the basement, the air thick with dust and the scent of old wood. Shadows danced on the walls, cast by the candle I held, making familiar objects appear threatening. There were old trunks, crates, and shelves lined with artifacts I had never noticed before. And in the far corner, a small locked chest, smaller than the rest, but radiating an almost magnetic importance. My daughter whispered, "That's it. That's what the map was leading to." I knelt before it, the key trembling in my hand. The chest was locked tight, and I could feel the tension of generations pressing down. I inserted the key and turned it slowly. The lock clicked with a hollow sound, and the chest creaked open. Inside, a bundle of letters, photographs, and documents that revealed the ultimate truth. The letters detailed crimes, betrayals, and manipulations my daughter's in-laws had orchestrated over decades. But there was more evidence of a cover-up, involving people I had trusted, secrets that had been kept from me for years, and a plan that threatened to destroy the family entirely. My hands shook as I read, realizing the full scope of what we had uncovered. And then, I saw a photograph that made my breath catch. My daughter as a child standing in a room I didn't recognize, smiling innocently. Behind her, a figure lurking in the shadows, unmistakably my daughter's mother-in-law, older but still imposing. It was the first proof I had that she had been manipulating events long before I had even realized it. The storm outside seemed to intensify, lightning flashing, thunder crashing. The house groaned, as if reacting to the secrets we had unearthed. My daughter turned to me, her eyes wide but determined. "Mom, now we know the truth. Everything. But we have to decide what to do with it." I nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the moment. The secrets weren't just about the past, they were about control, about power, about decisions that could shape the family for generations. And for the first time I realized the final confrontation was coming. Someone was coming. I could feel it. Footsteps, deliberate and measured, echoed from the hallway above. The matriarch. She had been waiting, watching, and now, She knew we had discovered everything. I took a deep breath, gripping the photographs, the letters, and the documents. "We're ready," I whispered to my daughter. "No matter what happens, we face this together." The shadows moved. The storm raged. And I knew the final revelation, the climax of this Christmas, was about to unfold. The basement was silent, save for the storm outside and our own quickening breaths. My daughter and I stood over the open chest, the letters, photographs, and documents spread like a trail of breadcrumbs from a dark past. I could feel the weight of generations pressing on my shoulders, the betrayals, the schemes, the secrets that had been buried for decades. And yet, there was one more presence, one more shadow lingering in the house that we had yet to confront. A soft, deliberate creak echoed from the stairs above. My daughter's grip on my hand tightened. The matriarch's silhouette appeared in the doorway, framed by flashes of lightning. Her eyes glinted with cold satisfaction. "So you finally found everything," she said, voice low, dangerous. "Did you really think it would be this easy? That uncovering the past would protect you?" I swallowed hard, my voice trembling but resolute. "No, but now I know. And knowing gives us a choice. You can't control us anymore." Her smile was thin, almost amused. "Control? My dear, I never needed control. I only needed to ensure the family stayed on the path we chose. But you've disrupted that. And now consequences follow." A shadow flickered behind her, and for a moment I thought someone else had joined us. But it was only the storm casting shifting shapes on the walls. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "You've hidden behind whispers, behind threats, behind generations of deceit. But we are not afraid anymore. We will decide our own fate." The matriarch's eyes narrowed. Bold words, for a woman who doesn't yet know the full truth. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small sealed envelope. My heart stopped. Inside this, everything you've seen so far is nothing. The final secret, the one that could ruin everything, lies here. But I warn you, once opened, there is no turning back. I took the envelope, hands shaking violently. My daughter whispered, "Mom, do it. Face it. Whatever's in there, we'll handle it together." I broke the seal and unfolded the paper. My breath caught. It wasn't just a letter. It was proof of a hidden inheritance, decades-old manipulations, and shocking family connections I had never suspected. But the final revelation, the one that made my heart drop like a stone into icy water, was this. My daughter's husband's family was not only involved in manipulation, but there was a secret bond linking them directly to me, an uncle I had believed lost long ago, a man who had orchestrated schemes from the shadows, guiding events to shape our family's trajectory. The matriarch's lips twisted into a smile, satisfied, confident. "See? I warned you. The truth is more dangerous than you imagined. And now the choice is yours. Protect the family, or let the secrets destroy it." My daughter stepped forward, trembling but fierce. "Mom, it's not about protecting them. It's about protecting ourselves. We have the evidence. We can reveal the truth and finally be free." The matriarch's eyes flickered with something I had never seen before, fear. For the first time, her control wavered. And in that moment, I realized the power had shifted. We had been guided to this point. Every clue, every map, every hidden letter had led us here. We held the final key, both literally and figuratively. I looked at my daughter, her eyes shimmering with tears and resolve. "Are you ready?" I whispered. She nodded. Together, we walked toward the living room, the envelope and documents in hand. Each step felt heavier than the last, the storm outside echoing the tension inside. When we entered the room, the matriarch followed, but she no longer looked untouchable. Her presence was formidable, yes, but now vulnerable, exposed. I took a deep breath and began to read the letters aloud, every word a revelation. Betrayals, manipulations, hidden promises, and secret alliances. All exposed for the first time in decades. My daughter's hands gripped mine, supporting me as the room seemed to shrink with every word spoken. And then a final photograph fell from the envelope. My breath caught. It was a picture of my husband, my daughter, and me, taken decades ago, but someone else was in the frame, barely visible in the shadows. The matriarch gasped, her composure cracking for the first time. The figure was the uncle, the orchestrator, the hidden hand behind the chaos. He had been influencing everything, using fear, manipulation, and secrecy to control our family. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the full truth. The betrayal, the darkness, the shadows we had uncovered. It was all part of a long game, one designed to test us, to control us. But now, with the evidence in hand, the power shifted. We were no longer pawns. We were the authors of our own fate. The matriarch's voice trembled slightly. You don't understand the cost. I shook my head, my voice steady for the first time all night. I understand perfectly. The cost of silence, of fear, of letting darkness rule. But that ends now. The family will know the truth. And from now on we decide. The storm outside began to fade. Rain turning to a light drizzle, the wind dying down. Shadows retreated from the corners of the room. A sense of calm, fragile but real, settled over us. My daughter hugged me tightly, whispering, "We did it, Mom. We faced it. We're free." And in that moment I realized the most important truth of all. Christmas was never about gifts or perfection. It was about courage. About facing shadows, uncovering secrets, and standing together when the darkness threatens to consume you. The matriarch left silently, her plans thwarted, the weight of generations of secrets finally exposed. And as my daughter and I stood together, surrounded by letters, photographs, and the remnants of hidden schemes, I knew the house, the family, and Christmas itself had changed forever. I looked at my daughter, voice trembling but full of warmth. No matter what happens, remember this. The truth may be hidden, but love, courage, and the bond between mother and daughter, that can never be taken. And in the quiet aftermath, with shadows retreating and candlelight flickering, I understood. The past may shape us, secrets may haunt us, but facing them together is what truly sets us free.